Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage North Carolina's native and candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson.
Wow, look at this crowd. This is something else. All right, folks. For those of you all who have heard me speak in the past, not going to break tradition, never going to break tradition. The very first thing I'm going to do is give thanks to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. For all the naysayers out there to say this is not a Christian nation, I got news for you. This nation was born and bred by the blood of Jesus Christ through faithful people who fell down on their knees and asked for his wisdom and asked for his blessing. And he heard them and he answered us and he gave us that flag and he gave us all the freedom that goes with it. So we give him thanks first and foremost before we say anything. Also like to thank the folks that invited me to come down. Thank you very much to BLEXIT, all the folks that are instrumental in getting us down. Thank you very much for including us in this. Feel honored to be on stage, share the stage with folks like Candace, Owens, D'Souza, and all the other folks that are going to be here. Thank you very much to BLEXIT for inviting me. I certainly appreciate it. So guys, what am I going to talk about today? What I'm going to talk about today is simple. And I'm glad I got a good audience out there right now. Because I'm going to tell you what, God has given me a word and told me to give this word. And he's told me to give this word specifically to my people. And here's what that word is. The word is this. It is time for us to take our power back. We have laid our power down at the feet of leftists who intend on putting us back, like Joe Biden said, into chains. And it's time for us to pick that power back up, take it into our hands, and be the masters of our own destiny once again. Anybody who's ever read a history book knows the story of black people in this nation. Here it is. The very first experience for black people coming to this nation was something called the Middle Passage. We were packed into ships like cattle. Down in the belly of those ships, there was no welfare programs in the belly of those ships. There were no social justice warriors in the belly of those ships. There were no Joe Bidens and Kamala Harris in the bellies of those ships. The only people we had to rely on in that Middle Passage, in the belly of those ships, was ourselves. It was up to us to survive in the belly of those ships. And here it is. We did it. We survived that Middle Passage. And why did black people survive the Middle Passage? Because black people are a powerful people. We are a powerful people. We survived that Middle Passage on our own. We didn't need Congress to pass some legislation to get through those troubling times. We didn't need Don Lemon and CNN to come out and do a commentary. What we relied on was our strength and our faith, and it pulled us through. And so we survived that Middle Passage. Once we got to this nation, what we had in store for us wasn't much better. We ended up on plantations. After that cotton gin was invented, slavery became mechanized. We ended up on those slave plantations, those cotton plantations, working in those fields, working in those homes. And again, Who was it that we relied on the slave plantations? Weren't no social programs, wasn't no welfare checks. There was mama, there was daddy, there was children, and even in the midst of the storm, we relied on one another and we relied on God Almighty, and we survived the slave plantations because we understood what was important. Got off the slave plantation, the next trial we had to go through was something called Jim Crow. Had to go to separate drinking fountains. Had to go around to the back of the buildings like some kind of subhuman. Couldn't halfway vote. Couldn't halfway have a voice. Everything was separated by race. Now I want you to look at the way what we did in those days. No social programs, no social directives from the government telling us that this stuff wasn't right. Who did we have to rely on again during Jim Crow? Who is it that black people had to rely on when they were facing extreme racism? When they were facing the Ku Klux Klan and the Black League, when the sheriff was an open member of the Ku Klux Klan, when you couldn't go down to the local business and get a job because you were the wrong color. Who did they rely on? We relied on each other. Mama, daddy, children, and God. That's who we relied on. And through each one of those three stages, you look at what happened. The middle passage, we were at our lowest point. We raised ourselves up just a little bit more on that slave plantation. But during Jim Crow, you can go back and you can look at it and the record will show you that's when black folks were at their highest in this country. When the times were the toughest, that's when they were highest. And why? Because they knew they had to rely on themselves. They held their power and their destiny in their own hands. And not only did they make a way, they set a standard because they relied on each other. During those turbulent times, the numbers told the story. 95% of black homes had a mother, a father, and children. When times were at their worst, black folks were at their best because they understood what was important. They understood their priorities. And they stood up for one another. They stood up for their homes. And they knew that true power doesn't lie with some entity in Washington, D.C. or in Raleigh or some state capital. True power lies in the four walls of your home when you stand up and declare yourself to be a man and to be a woman and to be an American, and you take charge of your own life and your own destiny. That's exactly what black folks did during that time. But see, then we reached the point where we had these people I call highfalutin eggheads start telling folks, you don't need to rely on God. You need to rely on the government. See, you don't need no man in your house. What you need is a welfare check. See, we're going to start this thing called the war on poverty. How many of y'all know that wasn't a war on poverty? That was a war on us. That was a war on the family. In particular, the black family. That's what that was a war on. You see, because people like Lyndon Johnson understood as long as the father was in the home, as long as the mother was in the home, as long as black folks were determining their own destiny, he had nothing on them. He couldn't hold power over them. He had to figure out a way to worm his way in. Cause black folks to set their power down at the feet of government. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened. Black folks stopped relying on each other and started relying on an all-powerful government. They literally took their power and laid it down at the feet of Lyndon Johnson and the Democratic Party. And now the proof is in the numbers. 75% black households don't have fathers in them. If there's ever a cause that anyone should pick up, if there's ever an issue that NFL players should be raising hell about, if there's ever an issue that LeBron James should be saying, I'm going to sit down and I'm not going to play no more, it should be until every black father packs his bags, goes back home, and says, honey, I'm here. I'm down on my knees. Be my wife so I can be a father, so I can determine the destiny of my people. Because, see, it starts in the home. You see, black folks think that having a millionaire basketball player on the court, a millionaire basketball player on the court, is a symbol of the success of black people. No, 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 no. Having millions of fathers return home to their children, that's success in America. That's success in the home. And it is time this day, to stand up and declare as black people that I didn't need the government. See, I didn't need the government on the Middle Passage. What I needed was the good Lord. I didn't need the government on the slave plantation. Did they play a role in freeing us? Absolutely. But once they freed us, it was up to us to survive. Nobody didn't come knock on your door and tell you, I'm here to make you survive. We survived on our own because we knew what was important. And during Jim Crow, when black folks were shining, even in the face of unspeakable racism, they knew what was important. Folks, today is no different. It is time for black folks in this nation to declare, number one, the first thing we need to declare is this: I'm not no African American. Yeah, I said I ain't no African American. Grammatically incorrect, spiritually right. I'm not an African American, because here it is. When we were fighting for our freedom in the Civil War, we weren't flying no African banners. We were flying the StarSpangled Banner. When we were fighting in World War I, even as we were still being treated like dogs at home, we weren't fighting under no African banner. We were flying the StarSpangled Banner. When we were fighting in World War II, still for a country that didn't treat us equal, we were fighting under the StarSpangled Banner. And today is no different. It's no different. When I served in the United States military, I served under the Star-Spangled Banner of the United States of America, which I pledge allegiance to. I have never pledged allegiance to any nation in Africa, nor do I ever intend to. I am American. And here it is, let's make it plain. I call myself American because of this. My story is as American as George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. Without the story of my people, the story of America is incomplete. It can't be told without telling the story of the Middle Passage. It can't be told without telling the story of the slave plantations. It can't be told without telling the story of Jim Crow. And it can't be told without telling the victories thereof. My story is American. I am an American. My blood is American. My mind is American. My heart is American because I am an American. And I declare it proudly. That's number one. And number two, Here it is, much to the dismay of Joe Biden, much to the dismay of all those leftist idiots out there. Here it is. I don't care if you don't like it or not. I am a free man, a free thinker, and I will determine my destiny. You will not determine my destiny. I will determine my destiny. I will decide how I am called and where I go and who I will serve. It will be me, not anybody else. Why? Why are all these things true for me? Here it is, because of the most important thing. I'm not here to serve man. See, I'm running for office. Supposed to be some things that I'm not supposed to say. But I've been saying them anyway, and here's why. Because I don't care what you think. Till you hold the keys of heaven and hell in your hands, I don't care what you think. Till you sign my paycheck at the bottom, God Almighty, I don't care what you think, because I'm not here. I'm not here to please man. Matter of fact, when man is angry at me and God is smiling, I'm happy. Here it is, folks. Here it is. Despite what these, and I love this word, despite what these highfalutin eggheads say, there's a right and there's wrong. There's good and there's evil. Netflix just sure proved that. And there's a heaven and there is a hell. And there ain't no gray area or no purgatory in between. And the most important decision you will make on this earth is not how you call yourself by a nation, not how you call yourself by a political party, not whether or not you'll go to the poll and vote R or D, but whether or not you will spend eternity in heaven with our Father or spend eternity in hell with the devil. People ask me all the time, how in the world do you come up with the things that you say? I don't come up with them, because I serve a higher authority. I get my orders explicitly from God and carry them out in his name. You see, isn't it funny how those of us who believe in him are just seem to have a wisdom and a peace and a confidence? Isn't that funny? The things that come out of our mouth make sense. And then the things that we see coming from the other side are total chaos. Got folks running around in the streets standing up for criminals. Got Drew Brees and these NFL players, they got a rapist name on their football helmet. My question to you is this. Where were you at when Tyshawn Lee was executed in Chicago? A 9-year-old child executed for gang revenge. Where was the NFL when that happened? When did Colin Kaepernick take a knee for the little 2-year-old child that was shot in his grandfather's arm? When did Colin Kaepernick take a knee for them? See, we got it all wrong in this country. While we're busy putting the police under the microscope, we done let the family fall all the way off the radar. We don't need police reform in this nation. What we need in this nation is community reform, family reform. We need a revival in this nation is what we need. We need some baby daddies and some baby mamas to become husbands, become wives, return home, and start raising their children to be something. Because here it is. You know them folks we mentioned in the middle passage? And them folks we mentioned on them slave plantations? And then with folks we mentioned during Jim Crow? Them folks stood up proud. They stood up tall. I can even imagine some of them with their slave chains on, the rags they had on. They made sure those rags were as clean as could be. And they stood up and stiffened up their backs. And every stripe they took it with a determination to survive because they saw me and you in their future. They saw what was coming down in the pike. And they only knew that it would come if they took those stripes and took those beatings. I'm not ashamed of those folks. And I'm not angry about those folks. I'm proud of them. Because their stripes and what they did put me here right now. But now we got some folks that's living the dream, see? See, on the Edmund Pettus Bridge when them dogs and water hoses and nightsticks and tear gas was whooping them people upside the head and beating them, blooding them up, they picked up them American flags they were carrying anyway and kept right on carrying them and waving them because they believed in the promise of that flag. They saw LeBron James. They saw Michael Jordan. They saw all the successful black people who exist today. They saw the promise of America. But now that we've reached that promise, we got folks that have forgotten about all the black folks who carried that flag and bled for that flag and died for that flag and were buried under that flag. And now we got them out kneeling on that flag. How disgusting. Black people have survived and thrived more in this place called the United States of America than they have in the place where they came from in Africa or any other place on earth. It is time for black folks in this country to bend their backs, pay homage to those who bled and died for them and gave their lives for them. Bend over, pick up their power, return home, and determine their own destinies and the destinies of their future generation. It is time. Thank you very much. God bless you all. God bless the great state of South and North Carolina, and God bless the United States of America.
It's your boy Deuce McDamian, the macadamia nut. High power. You know we gotta stay boiling hot. We do it so unorthodox, like that seals of a pack of spot. We so high power. Stay hotter than a burning flame.